All right, so today we're diving into something called onychophagia. You probably know it as chronic nail biting. And if you've ever struggled with it or you know someone who has, you've definitely heard one question over and over again.
Right? It's a question just loaded with frustration. And honestly, a lot of misunderstanding. It makes it sound like it's all about willpower, like it's some kind of personal failure. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? Here's the clinical truth. It's not about willpower, because it's not just a bad habit. It's an actual clinical disorder. And getting your head around that powerful reframe is the real first step to stopping. It moves the conversation from shame to science.
So here's our game plan. We're going to break down what nail biting really is. We'll look at why our brains push us to do it and the hidden damage it can cause. Then, and this is the important part, we're getting into the solutions. Proven therapies, a whole toolkit of support items, and a clear roadmap to get you there.
Okay, first things first, let's get a proper definition of what's really happening when someone just can't seem to stop biting their nails. So, modern medicine does not see this as some simple gross habit. It's what's called a BFRB, a body-focused repetitive behavior. The official diagnostic manual, the DSM-5, actually groups it with things like compulsive hair pulling or skin picking. And that's the key. It's a compulsive action driven by a powerful urge, and it often leads to real distress and real physical harm. So why? Why does the brain drive us to do this? It's not random. Your brain is actually trying to solve a problem. But before we get into the why, let's just take a quick look at the who and when. You might be surprised how common this is.
For a lot of people, this whole thing kicks off in childhood. Research shows that about 30% of kids between 7 and 10 bite their nails. So for many, this is where that pattern really starts to lock in. But then the teenage years hit, and that number just explodes. It peaks at a staggering 45%. I mean, almost half of all adolescents. This huge jump tells us that the behavior is really tied to all the new stress and changes happening during that time. Now, a lot of people do just grow out of it, but it's no guarantee. For about 25% of young adults, that's 1 in 4, the behavior sticks around, and it can become this chronic, lifelong thing. So, what is the brain trying to do? It's all about regulation. Think of it as the Goldilocks effect. When your brain is overstimulated, you're feeling anxious or totally stressed out, that repetitive motion of biting actually soothes you. But on the flip side, when you're understimulated, say you're bored watching a movie or stuck in traffic, biting gives your brain a little jolt of sensation to keep you engaged. It's literally your brain trying to find a level of stimulation that's just right. And this chart breaks down those triggers perfectly. You can see it's not just about feeling anxious. It can be boredom, sure, but it can also be when you're super focused, like working on the computer. And this last one is fascinating. For anyone with a perfectionist streak, just seeing a tiny hangnail can trigger this overwhelming grooming urge to fix it, which of course just makes everything so much worse.
Okay, let's be really clear here. This goes way, way beyond just having nails that don't look great. Chronic nail biting can cause serious, long-term, and in some cases, totally irreversible physical damage.
Let's look at the clinical risks. In terms of skin, the most common thing is paronychia. It's a nasty, painful infection around the nail. Do that enough, and you can end up with permanent nail loss or something called a habit tick deformity, these deep washboard ridges on your nail that never go away. And the dental side is just as scary. All that pressure can actually push your teeth out of line, or even worse, it can cause apical root resorption, where your body literally reabsorbs the root of your tooth, making it unstable and possibly leading to it falling out. Phew. Okay. So now that we understand the problem, let's talk about the solution. Since this is a learned behavior wired into the brain, the best treatment is all about unlearning it and building brand new neural pathways. The absolute gold standard therapy here is called habit reversal training, or HRT, and it's a skill you learn, not some magic pill. So, step 1, you train yourself to notice that urge, that feeling you get right before you bite. Step 2, the second you feel it, you do what's called a competing response, something that makes it physically impossible to bite, like clenching your fists really tight or sitting on your hands for a minute until the urge fades. You back this up with support from a friend, and then you practice it everywhere you're likely to bite. Now, what about those people who bite and don't even realize they're doing it? Well, for them, there's a newer technique called decoupling. This is pretty cool. Instead of stopping the movement, you let it start. You bring your hand up to your mouth, just like you always do, but at the very last second, you swerve and you touch somewhere else, like your earlobe.
You practice this new move over and over, and you literally build a competing circuit in your brain that overrides the old biting one.
So here's how you know which one might be for you. It's super simple. HRT is about stopping the movement before it even starts. It's static. That makes it great for focused biters who feel the urge coming. Decoupling, on the other hand, is about hijacking the movement while it's happening. It's dynamic, and that makes it perfect for automatic biters who act without thinking. It all depends on your own personal experience. Behavioral therapy is absolutely key, but it doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting by itself. Let's look at how you can build out a personal toolkit to really support this change.
Okay, first up, there's really promising research on an over-the-counter supplement called N-acetylcysteine, or NAC. It helps regulate a brain chemical called glutamate, and that can really dial down the intensity of those urges. Then you have physical barriers, which are crucial. We're talking anything from that gross-tasting polish to getting thick gel nails that are just too hard to bite through. And of course, there's tech. Wearable bracelets like the Keen 2 can be trained to recognize your specific hand-to-mouth motion, and they'll vibrate, giving you a little nudge in real time to build that awareness.
So it's super important to remember this. Stopping for good is a journey. It's a process, not a one-time event. And thanks to clinical research, we can actually map out what that journey might look like.
Here's a kind of recommended 6-month protocol. Month 1 is all about building awareness and putting up those physical barriers. Month 2 is when you really start mastering the behavioral training, either HRT or decoupling, and you can add in the NAC supplement. For the next few months, your focus shifts to healing, using things like Bioin for nail strength and just keeping your hands healthy. And then it's all about ongoing maintenance, like carrying a little crisis kit with a nail file and a fidget toy. It's a long-term strategy.
Look, this is not a quick fix. As the clinical literature makes really clear, this takes patience. You are literally rewiring your brain and healing physical tissue that might have been damaged for years, even decades. But the evidence is undeniable. With the right, multi-layered approach, stopping forever is completely possible.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. For anyone who's been stuck in this cycle of trying to stop and failing, what if it was never about a lack of willpower? What if the real first step is to just stop blaming yourself and start understanding the complex clinical condition you're actually up against? Because that shift in perspective, well, that could change everything.